An Immigration and Customs Enforcement spokesperson confirming to the New York Post that dozens of migrants who were caught on camera violently storming the border in El Paso, Texas earlier this year have been released into the U.S. Back in May, an El Paso judge dismissed criminal charges against the 211 illegal migrants involved in that riot. They were released from state custody, handed over to ICE, which released 43 of them. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas also announcing plans Friday to protect an extra 300,000 Haitian nationals from deportation and offer them work permits. Joining me now, Texas Congressman Pat Fallon. He's also a member of the House Oversight and Armed Services Committee. Congressman, your reaction?
Well, Cheryl, I'm not surprised because for 3.5 years, this administration has been incentivizing illegal migration, mass unlawful migration, mind you. And it's more of the same. You had Joe Biden very incoherently trying to defend his border policy last week. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at the Obama and the Trump presidencies, at this point in their administrations, Cheryl, they had about 2 million illegal border crossings. Joe Biden has seen 10 million. And there's a reason for that, because they are welcoming this illegal migration. And it's really a disgrace.
You know, one of the things that we saw at the debate last week, and which we're still talking about, was President Biden claiming that the Border Patrol endorsed him. And I don't know if we have that clip, guys, and I apologize to my team if that's the case, or Maria's team. But basically, he said in the debate, they've got it. Let's go ahead and play this. I want to get your reaction to this. Thanks, guys.
We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position.
Well, they didn't. And they came out and they said, that's absolutely false. Congressman, your reaction?
Joe Biden has been lying for over a half a century, and he's never called on it because the legacy media just gives him a pass, and they have for decades. So it's not a surprise. But let's run through a few things here, Cheryl. We hadn't seen in 25 years a month we had over 200,000 illegal border crossings. Under Joe Biden, we've seen that 28 times. Under President Trump for 4 years, there were 11 people who are on the terrorist watch list that were apprehended. Under Joe Biden, it's been 362, because that's how many people are getting across. 170 countries are represented by folks crossing the border illegally. And the Border Patrol Union endorsed President Trump because he actually allowed them to do their jobs. He reduced a flood to a trickle. And as soon as Joe Biden got into office, that trickle became a flood again.
Yeah, well, and now former President Trump says that if he's reelected, he's shutting the border down. I want to bring in Michael Baboni. He's got a question for you.
Congressman, what everybody wants to know is, all right, so what's the way forward? If this system is not working right now, because we're not going to wait for another 6 months, what can Congress do right now to try to bolster the defenses at the border and stop this influx?
Well, that's the struggle. You know, that's the struggle and frustrating thing, Michael, when you're in divided government, is the House Republicans. We passed H.R. 2, which was an omnibus border security bill that would have secured the border. But the Democrats in the Senate, they just kill it. Chuck Schumer doesn't take it up. So what we need to do is continuing to do our job, at least in the House, because we don't have the majority in the Senate. So, yes, I want to pull my hair out sometimes, but our job is to inform the American people so they'll demand action, because I do think Joe Biden is going to lose the election. And this is the #1 issue, and he has failed miserably on it.
Well, you know, what's interesting is what's happening in France right now is this. It's about immigration and about the economics and about taxes. All of those things are why you're seeing France go right. And these are the same issues that American voters are saying they care about, to your point. I do want to ask you about the issue of Israel. Israeli Defense Forces are saying, and a spokesperson said, that the IDF is prepared for a variety of security scenarios in all areas and will continue to protect the state of Israel from the various threats. This is obviously the concern about Hezbollah. And this is just 2 days after the Iranian UN mission threatened an obliterating war if Israel launches a full-scale conflict in Lebanon. And then you've got an op-ed out about this. You write this in Real Clear Politics. When it comes to Israel, Biden's policy is politics. You said that Biden would rather appease the pro-Hamas mob than act in the interest of the American people by standing with our longtime ally, Israel.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, Joe Biden has been ruling by decree and fiat. We passed a $14.3 billion emergency aid package for Israel. Let me say that again, Cheryl, emergency aid package. And Joe Biden, coordinated with his Department of State and Defense, withhold the very aid that a bipartisan, overwhelming majority of bipartisan bipartisan majority in the House and the Senate passed. And what that's doing, it's emboldening our allies. And those munitions that he withheld, by the way, Cheryl, were precision munitions. So that's going to keep folks, the innocent civilians, safe because we're targeting Hamas. But you know what Joe Biden's two-state solution is? It's winning Pennsylvania and Michigan.
Okay, well, there you go. It goes back to the political issues, certainly, and getting those votes. You know, Axios is reporting that President Biden has trouble functioning outside a 6-hour window of daylight. White House aides told them from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. he's dependably engaged. Many of his public events in front of cameras are held within those hours. Outside of that time range or while traveling abroad, he's more likely to have verbal miscues and become fatigued. You know, Gordon Chang was with me last hour, Congressman, and his op-ed, will the Joe Biden debate debacle lead China to start World War III? You talk about, you know, global security and our nation's security. How concerned should we be about the president's functioning?
Oh, very, very concerned, because, Cheryl, I don't think our enemies are only going to be nefarious and take dangerous actions between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. every single day. We got to have a president that's functioning 24/7. And the fact of the matter is, what we saw and what the world saw on that debate stage was Joe Biden clearly is impaired. He clearly is not functioning anywhere near 100% capacity. He's a shadow of who he used to be. And we saw, I think this has been a cover-up of epic proportions. The truth will eventually come out, and it's absolutely chilling, quite frankly.
Well, and now we're seeing this morning a lot of the mainstream media outlets starting to kind of circle the wagons around Joe Biden, changing their tune. But at the same time, you know, you need a president that at 3 a.m., if he gets woken up to make a major decision, he needs to be alert. Congressman Pat Fallon, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks. God bless.
All right, you too.